October November 2025 Maths Paper 2 0580 explained by a Maths A star student. Let's get into it. The non-calculator paper has recently been added in 2025, so it is a new edition with only one specimen paper, and the first batch being in May June 2025. That was my batch. I personally gave it in 2025, and I managed to get an A star. So uh, I will help you go through this paper. Alright, so question number one, the temperature at 4 a.m. is -12, temperature at 4 p.m. is 21 degrees Celsius. Find the increase in temperature. This is a super simple question. It's going to be 22 minus 12. You're going to get 33 as the answer for that one. Okay, so there are a couple of ways to attempt this question, but what I'm simply going to do is I'm going to write 8 equals 2 and I'm going to write down all the factors that I can think of. So we're going to get 1, we're going to get 8, we're going to get 2, we're going to get 4. Okay, that's I think all of them. And for 12, we're going to have 1, 6, let's do 3, 4, and pretty sure that's it 2 as well, 6 times 2, and 12. Okay. So, what are some common factors, right? There's 1, there's 4, and there is 2. So, answer would be 1, 2, and 4. All right. Holy shit, how did that happen? All right. A cuboid has length 6 centimeters, width 5 centimeters, and height 2.5. Work out the volume, right? Now, we all know the volume of a cuboid is just equal to the three sides multiplied, right? Here we have a cuboid over here, right? So let's say this length over, let me do this in a different color, right? We have one length, we have second, and we have the third, right? Let's say this is x, this is y, and this is z. All we gotta do is multiply the three. So 6 times 5 times 2.5 equals to 75 centimeters cubed. 75 is our final answer over here. A computer costs $560 in a sale. The cost is reduced by 20%. Find the cost of the computer in the sale. Okay, if the cost is reduced by 20%, what is the remaining percentage, right? That's going to be 100 minus 20. Remaining percentage is 80%. So we need to calculate 80% of 560, right? 560 over 100 times 80, we are going to get, I believe, 448. Let me double check that. Yep, that is accurate. 448. Don't worry, guys, if you're worried about if this is correct or not, I have the marking scheme open just to double check and make sure I don't give you guys some wrong information. Okay, the pie chart shows some information about the way 600 students travel to school. Work out the number that walk to school. Okay, so if 600 students is equal to this entire thing, which is 360 degrees, okay, 600 students is represented by uh, 360 degrees. How many students would be represented by 60 degrees, okay, or by 90 actually, because we need to find the students who walk, and walking is 90 degrees. Okay, so one way to do this is write down the number of students over here, ratio to the angle. Okay, let's just write that. Right, so the number of students, x. Okay, the number of students who walk. What's the angle? 90. 600 students is represented by 360 degrees, and now just got to put an equal sign and put fractions. We need to find x, so we take 600 to the other side, multiply, we're gonna get 90 over 360 times 600. That gives us 150. Our answer is 150 students walk to school. 120 students travel to school by car. The remaining students travel by bus. Complete the pie chart. All right, so if 120 students travel to the school by car, what angle would that be? Okay, what angle would that be? Let's write it down over here. Okay, same thing. So 120 students drive by car, 600. We're using the same ratio as above. What angle is shown? No idea. This is 360. Okay, so to find the angle, once again, multiply that over there. Let me bring that down a bit. we're gonna have 120 over 600 times 360 equals to x, right? So 120 by 360 by 600 times 360. This gives us 72 degrees. So in this pie chart, around 72 degrees, which would be around there, is the number of people who I believe go by car, right? Yep, by car. And the remaining amount, which you could calculate, it's the students who go by bus. Okay, that's simple, easy, 3 marks. Okay, just calculate over here. This equals to 138. Okay, degrees. Don't worry, I have the marking scheme open, just reassuring you. ABCD is a quadrilateral. E lies on CD, and AE is parallel to BC. We have this entire shape over here. I don't know, guys. Personally, I cannot understand this stuff. I just look at the shape and, you know, do it from there because this seems to, complicate it more than it needs to be. Find the angle ABC. Okay, so one thing you need to notice over here is that this line AE and this line BC are parallel to each other, right? And if you remember a rule, interior angles, when two parallel lines have a line that cuts them, the interior angle, as in this angle plus this angle, will always equal to 180, right? That means 180 minus 75 would equal to the angle ABC which we are looking for. That would give us 180 minus 75, 105. Double check with the marking scheme, and that is accurate. Okay, move on. Find the angle AED. AED is this angle right here. Right now, some students would, just look at this and say, oh yeah, that's like that's 90 degrees, right? No, that's wrong. That's not 90 degrees. You can't make assumptions like that, right? Okay. First look at this. It says that AE and BC are parallel, right? Now, if DC is a straight line, that means this angle would equal to this angle, right? Let's check. All right, CD is a straight line, okay? So, it says over here, E lies on CD. That means CD is a straight line, right? So that means this angle would equal to 80 degrees. Okay, and yes, according to the marking scheme, this is correct. If you guys are having trouble in this topic, make sure to go check out my video on angles. Okay, angle DAB. That would be this entire section right there. Okay, now for this one, we might have to do some calculations. Okay, let's go. We have 80 degrees over here and blah 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 blah. Okay, guys, notice one thing. Let me just clear this up a bit. Uh, this line right here and this line are the same length, right? That means that this angle over here and this angle would be the same, right? We know that this is equal to 80 degrees, right? So let's find these angles. Since the angles are same, we can interior angle of a triangle is 180 minus that by 80 will give us those two angles. Okay, since the angles are the same, we're going to write x. Okay, 180 minus 80, that's 100. Take the 2 down here, we get x. X equals to 50, right? That means that one of these angles equals to 50 degrees. All right, hope you understand how I did that. Now 50 plus 75, we're gonna get 125, which is our final answer right here. All right, represent the inequality. Minus 4 is less than x, and x is less than or equal to 3 on the number line, right? So first thing we need to know is how to use a number line, right? We have numbers from -6 to +6 shown over here, and I feel it's always best to separate this into two inequalities, right? So write down x is less than or equal to 3 and x is greater than -4. Okay, always look at which side this opens to. This opens towards x, this opens away from x, right? So make sure however you do it, it's the same way, towards, against. Okay, now x is less than or equal to 3, right? That means that x could be only this way from 3, right, on the number line. So we're going to make a circle over here. And since it says equal to, we're going to fill in the circle, right? Now we have x is greater than minus 4, right? So we have minus 4. That means x can be greater than minus 4. That means towards this way, but it cannot be equal to. So we're going to leave that circle empty, right? And now we just connect the two dots right there. And there is our inequality represented. Right, now question number 8 is Kemi buys P number of pens that each cost 40 cents. She pays with $20. Write an expression in terms of P for the change in cents Kemi receives from the $20, right? Okay, so obviously we have 40 cents per pen, right? So the total cost on her pens would equal to 40p, right? And they are telling us that she is getting some change. That means that $20 would be greater than our amount, right? Now, how do we represent 20 in cents, right? Basically, $1 is equal to 100 cents. So multiply this by 100, we are going to get 2000. Okay, so now that we know $20 is represented by 20,000 cents, we can just do this right there. 20,000 cents, which is our $20, minus 40p, which is cost per pen, multiplied by the number of pens. And our answer is 2000 minus 40p. Let me make that longer. All right. Rajat has a full bottle of juice. He drinks one third of the full bottle on Monday and he drinks 3/7 of the full bottle on Tuesday. Bottle find the fraction of the bottle of juice remaining. All right. So let's say he initially has one, right? He has a full bottle, that means one. He drinks one third of the bottle on Monday, minus one third, and then he drinks 3/7 of the full bottle on Tuesday, minus 3/7. Okay, 3/7 of the full bottle basically refers to we are minusing 3/7 from this amount, not this amount, even though we would kind of get the same answer. Okay, so since this is a non-calculator paper, you're gonna have to be good at fractions, okay? Okay, so first we need to find the LCM of 3 and 7. You could go ahead and find that out, but the answer is 21. So we need to get the denominator to 21, right? So 1 over 1, obvious 21 over 21, minus what we need to do over here is multiply both sides by 7 to get the denominator as 21. So 21 over 7, 7 over 21 actually. And then over here we need to multiply both sides by 3. So 3 times 3 we would get 9 actually minus, and 7 times 3 21. Now we can combine that into one thing. So 21 minus 7 minus 9, which you could do real quick on the side or whatever. Answer is 5. 5 over 21 is our final answer. Let me double check that from the marking scheme, and yes, that is correct. So I would really recommend you practice these papers without a calculator nearby, okay? Because when the calculator is nearby, you're gonna have the urge to do these type of simple calculations on the calculator, and you think that I'll do the actual one in the exam. Do not do that, okay? Because in the exam, you're gonna be stuck on simple questions like these then, and you won't have time to complete the rest of the paper, okay? Happened with many of my friends. Okay, moving on to the next question, we have b equals to dm plus 2mk. Given that the values of the variables are these, by rounding each value correct to one significant figure, work out an estimate for b. Now let's round out each of these, right? One significant figure means the first number, okay? So d 3.14 would just be 3, 7.92 would be 8, 10.16 would be 10, right? If you guys did not understand this step, please go back to rounding, watch a video on that super simple topic, right? Okay, so now you're just gonna input these values into the equation to find an estimate for b, right? B equals to d times m. D is 3 and m, that looks more like a, I don't know what that is. M is 8 plus 2m, which is 8, k, which is 10, right? 3 times 8 would be 3 times 8 would be 24. What is that? Okay, 2 times 8 would be 16. 16 times 10 would be 160. So the final answer would be 184, which when we double check from the marking scheme is correct. Okay, rearrange the formula to make m the subject. That's super simple. Just take m common in the right side. We will get d plus 2k, right? Basically what I did is I factored out m, right? Took it on this side and we got d plus 2k. Now we can just divide this on that side. So we get b, god, what is that? Over d plus 2k equals to m, right? Just need to write that over here. Guys, please make sure your handwriting doesn't look like this in the exam because I'm pretty sure your examiner will be pretty annoyed. And an annoyed examiner always finds ways to cut marks, right? Okay, anyways, question number 11. In the diagram, S lies on PQ and T lies on PR. ST is parallel to QR. Explain why the triangle PQR is mathematically similar to the triangle PST. Now, in similarity, there are some concepts, some rules we need to follow. And one of those is that if one angle is proven to be the same, or all three angles are proven to be the same, if all three angles are proven to be the same, the the triangle is mathematically similar, right? One way to do that is uh, you have to give statements for each of these. Okay, so for this angle we would say QPR SPT. I'm not going to write this down because that would take too much time. uh, is equal to one another, right? QPR and SPT, QPR and SPT are equal to one another because they are the same angle, right? That's what you have to write. And PST and PQR are equal to one another because they are interior angles, right? There are two parallel lines cut by a straight line, right? So this angle would mathematically be same. Similar reasoning for this angle and this angle. Just make that y. Okay, so you just write that down over here, right? That this equals to this, and this is the reason, and you will hopefully get all 3 marks. They have given us the lengths of these sides. We need to work out PQ. Okay, just this is a simple question, right? You just need to know ratios for this, guys. ST equals to 3, QR equals to 9, and PS. Okay, so let's label these sides. ST equals to 3. Wow, I'm not writing anything. 3. QR equals to 9. And PS equals to 5. We need to work out PQ. Okay, so okay, so the smaller, let's write down in ratios, right? So the smaller triangle angles sides are going to be here, and the larger triangle sides are going to be here. Okay, so we need to write similar sides directly in front of one another. Okay, so smaller triangle 3, gonna write that down here. Okay, 3. Okay, then we have smaller triangles 5, right? Gonna write that down here. Now, what side is similar to ST on the bigger triangle? That would be 9. We're going to write that right in front of this. 9. And for 5, it's PQ. Okay. Now, when we put the fractions and the equal to symbol here, we're going to get 3 over 5 equals to 9 over PQ, which you could take to the other side and rearrange. And the final answer you would get is, I believe, 15. Okay. Okay, moving on to part C. The area of triangle PST is 2k centimeters squared. Find in terms of k the area of quadrilateral QRTS. All right, let me just take a look at this question real quick. PST is this tiny triangle over here, and it says this is 2k centimeters squared. We need to find the area of QRTS, which is QRTS. Okay, so but that's basically this part right there. Okay. So to do that, we're gonna have to find the area of the entire triangle, subtract it by 2k, and we will get our final answer. Okay, now let's find the area of the entire triangle first, right? So the first thing we need to do is write it down over here. Okay, so this is a formula you need to memorize, all right? And it basically states that area of one triangle over the area of a second triangle equals to length, or basically the length of a line in one triangle over the length of the line that is similar to it in the other triangle, whole squared, right? So let me show you right here. Let me explain this to you. If you guys already know this formula, feel free to skip ahead, all right? Now, let's say this is 3, this tiny line over here, and then this line over here is 9, okay? Now, let's say the area of this big triangle, small triangle is A, and the area of the entire triangle is B, right? So the formula would be A over B equals to 3 over 9 whole squared, right? So that's how this formula works, right? And the squared is there basically because, in area we get centimeter squared. That's supposed to be a squared. And if it were to be in volume, it would be uh, basically instead of the square, it would be cubed. All right. Okay. Now let's move on to the actual solution. All right. Let's substitute the values in. Right. So area of triangle PST is 2k centimeters. Let's keep that down there. 2k, right? And the area we need to find, let's keep it as x, right? So x is referring to the greater triangle, right? So we need to remember that for this side over here, because then the greater triangle's length would need to be on top. Okay, so this qr equals to 9, right? And st equals to 3. These are the similar sides. Now remember, qr is going to come on top because we have kept the bigger triangle on top, right? And this is going to be whole squared. Let's just solve this on this side over here. 2k equals to square of 9. 9 times 9 is 81. The square of 3 is 3 times 3, which is 9. And just need to multiply 2k on this side. We're going to get x equals to 81 over 9 is 9. Multiplied by 2, we are going to get x is equal to 18k, right? Now, remember it asked us to find the area of the quadrilateral, right, which is this, right? So if the entire thing equals to 18k, we just need to subtract 2k from it to get the area of this part right there, right? So 18k minus 2k is gonna give us 16k centimeter squared, which is our final answer. Okay, question number 12. A fitness club has 100 members, 60 in swim, 70 in cycle. Okay, no, 60 swim, 70 cycle, 25 do not swim or cycle. Complete the Venn diagram, right? Now, the circle S represents the people who swim, and circle C represents the people who cycle, and 25 don't do either of them. All right, all right. So now we know that the total members are 100, all right? But now if you sum this up, right, you'll see that this is not equal to 100, right? 60 plus 70 plus 25 does not equal to 100, right? So what that means is between the 60 in swim and 70 in cycle, there are some who do both, right? And we need to find out what that number is exactly. But we know that 25 don't do either, so let's just write 25 down over here. All right, now uh, 100 minus 25 equals to 75, I believe. Yup, that's 75. That means the total number of people who do swim, or who do cycle, or who do both are 75. Now we need to find out what number that is exactly. All right. Okay, so for this I would recommend the Venn diagram rule, right? Which is basically that S union C is equal to S plus C minus S intersection C. S intersection C is basically all the people in the middle over here who do both swim and cycle, right? So let's substitute our values into this. We know that S union C equals to 75, right? So 75 equals to S is 60 because 60 people swim, cycling is 70, minus S intersection C. All right. So what is 75? what is 60 plus 70? That is 130. So 75 equals to 130 minus that. All right. That means S intersection C will equal to 55, right? That's 55. All right, this is non-calculator, guys, so you have to remember to do this without a calculator. That means the people in the middle over here would be 55. All right. Now, now if 60 people swim, that means 5 people need to be in here to complete the 60 from this side, and 15 people need to be over here to complete 70 from this side. And that is basically it. All right, that is 3 marks. One member of the fitness club is chosen at random. For this member, find PC, which is basically the probability of picking a member of the which is basically the probability of picking a person who swims, right? So that would be number of people who swim over total, which is 100, and that is your answer. 70 over 100, or you could write it as 7 over 10, right? Anyway, now what is the probability of finding a person who both swims and cycles, right? Intersect. That means the portion in the middle, which is 55. That means people who do both, 55 over total people, which is 100, which would give us 55 over 100. And yep, that's literally it. Right now we need to find people who swim, right, which is basically this number of people, and people who do not cycle, right? I think for this it's best if we shade it. So let me just help you with that real quick. Okay, so for these type of questions, I feel it is best to basically shade the Venn diagram in, right? So this was the statement, right? S union C apostrophe, right? Inverted, right? Or basic, whatever you want to call it, right? So S, basically first we shade this entire thing, right? So these 60 people. C apostrophe basically means everything outside this C, okay? So that's gonna give us this, right? So basically the 25 people outside here, right? So it would equal to 25 plus 60, which would give us 85, right? So this gives 85 people. So 85 people out of 100. That is our probability. And write that in over there for another free mark. Question number 13. All right. Question number 13 says write down 14m as a product of its prime factors. All right. So one thing we can do over here, which is super simple, is instead of taking 14 and then doing this, right, which would be very time consuming, multiply the entire thing and find the prime factors of that. Instead, from here, what you can do is find the prime factors of this, right? 14. What are prime factors of 14? 7 and 2. And I'm pretty sure that is it. These are the only prime factors, right? Now, since 14 equals to 7 times 2, we can just write that in here, right? 7 times 2 times 2 to the power of 7 times 3 to the power of 3 times 5 to the power of 2. So we can just substitute this prime factor value into this, and we would get 7 times 2 times this, right? Since we have another 2 over here, we can just compile that into 2 to the power of 8. Rest will be the same, right? So this is our final answer. 7 times 2 to the power of 8 times 3 cubed times 5 squared. This is the prime factors. Okay, so now moving on to part B. R is an integer. M over R is a cube number. Find the smallest possible value of R, right? So we know that M is equal to 2 to the power of 7 times 3 to the power of 3 times 5 to the power of 2. God, I assume that in too much, right? So let's write that down over here. 2 to the power of 7 times 3 to the power of 3 times 5 to the power of 2, right? That is M. over r, right? It says that this is equal to a cube number, right? And one rule to remember is that all cube numbers, the prime factors of the cube numbers would be like this, right? A to the power 3 times b to the power 3 times c to the power 3, whatever is z to the power of 3, right? It's always going to have a power of 3 on how many ever prime factors there are, all right? So what we need to do now is we need to get it into that format by eliminating whatever is extra, right? So if we eliminate 1 from this, we would get 2 to the power of 6, which is basically 2 to the power 3 times 2 to the power 3, right? We have maintained that rule, right? And same over here, 5 squared. There's no way to add 1 into that, right? We can't add uh, a number into that index, right? We can only subtract. So R would have to be, let me just erase this over here. R would have to be 2 times 5 squared, right? Which would give us basically 2 to the power of 6 times 3 to the power of 3, right? Now don't go off calculating this thinking that it's r. The bottom number is r, right? This is r and that is m, right? And this is our final answer, which is the cube number. What we need to calculate is r. So r is equal to 2 times 5 squared. 5 squared is 25. 2 times 25 is 50. So r would equal to 50. And that is it. Now find the value of 3 squared divided by 3, negative 2. Alright, let's put it into fractional form first. 3 squared over 3 to the power of negative 2, right? When anything is in negative, it basically means that you've reciprocated it, right? You've brought it down. So what we can do is take the 3 negative 2 up and change that sign, right? So that would turn into 3 squared times 3 squared, right? So that basically is 9 times 9, which is 81. If you didn't understand this, check out my video on indices where once again I have explained everything in a lot of detail. Alright, moving on to the next question. 16 minus 3 over 16 to the power of negative 3 over 2, right? Same thing, negative. So we put 1 over there and bring 16 to the power of 3 over 2 down, right? Once you've brought it down, you don't need the negative anymore, right? Now, people who watched my last video or guys who generally know indices would know that this basically means that 16 has the power of 3 and is being square rooted, right? So what is 16 to the power of 3? You could do that entire calculation, but it just equals to 64, right? And since it's square root over here, it's going to be plus minus. So the answer, what, is plus minus 1 over 16, right? That is the final answer. Okie dokie. So the next question, question number 15, factorize this. Right now, uh, if you guys know that, uh, if you guys know the rule difference of squares, this would be easy for you. 64 is equal to 8 squared. Substitute that in here. Since there's a difference of squares, we are going to write it in x plus 8 times x minus 8, and that is the final answer, right? These are just some formulas that you will need to know, right? You can't derive this on the spot like many other things, right? But you're gonna have to know this, right? Now for this one, you're gonna have to actually simplify this, right? So take your time, try to do this by yourself, and then come back and check how I have done it, right? So basically, the way to do this is both of these terms have x minus 2y, similar, right? So we can just take that common here, right? And we will get 5x plus 6x minus 2y, right? That's because here it was squared, right? Basically, there were two of these, right? So by factorizing, we only take away one. We still have one left over, right? So what you need to do now is write that again and simplify this, right? 5x plus 6x minus 12y, right? So you will get x minus 2y times 11x minus 12y. That is your final answer. You can just write that down over here. And that is it. All right, moving on to question number 16. A, B, and BD are two sides of a regular 15-sided polygon. Oh my god, polygons, amazing. A, B, and BC are two sides of a regular n-sided polygon. Wow. Angle DBC equals to 14, right? Work out the value of n. So for this, you're gonna need to know the formula for interior angle of a polygon, and that is going to be n minus 2 times 180 over n. All right. So what we can do is, since AB and BD, which is basically from here to here, is are two sides of a regular 15-sided polygon, what we can do is use the formula and replace n as 15, right? So we get 15 minus 2, which is 13, times 180 over 15, right? You're just gonna have to calculate that yourself, and I believe you will get, final answer will be 156. All right. So that means that this angle is 156 degrees, right? So that means the total angle from ABC would be 156 plus 14, which is going to be 170, right? That means this total angle is 170 degrees, right? 170 equals to n minus 2 into 180 all over n. We're gonna get 170 n equals to 180 n minus 360. All right. So you can take 180 n minus 170 n equals to 360, right? Uh, don't worry if I've skipped a couple of steps, you can go back and do this and you should get this. What I've done is basically taken 360 on this side and 170 on that side, right? Right, so over here we're gonna get 10n equals to 360. Is that right? Yep, that's right. And that will give us n equals to 360 over 10. We are going to get 36 as our final answer, and that is 4 marks. Okay, moving on to question number 17. We have B is the point negative 3 1 and D is the point negative 5 9. BD is the diagonal of the kite ABCD. Okay, let's try to draw this out real quick, right? A would be here, B would be there, C would be there, and D would be there. A, B, C, D. Alright, coordinates of B would be negative 3 1. Coordinates of D would be negative 5 9. Alright, if they're the other way around, just ignore that. It's just a diagram. It's gonna work both ways, right? This is the diagonal BD, that's AC, right? The ratio of the lengths of the diagonals BD and AC is 2:3. Work out the length of AC. So the first thing we need to do is find out the length of BD, right? So BD would equal to under root. We're gonna use formula from coordinate geometry over here. Minus 3 minus negative 5 squared plus 1 minus 9 squared. All right, you could take your time and do this in the normal sense, right? In, like, you could take your time and do this normally, but I'm gonna use a calculator just to uh, make this a bit more fast. So the answer we would get is 2 root 17, right? Now let's use the ratio method, right? So BD ratio AC, right? BD is equal to 2 root 17. AC is equal to no idea. BD has a ratio 2, AC is 3, right? Let's put an equals to sign and put that right there. So 2 root 17 over 2 equals to x over 3, right? That gets cancelled with that, and we just need to take that there and multiply. So our answer would be 3 root 17 would equal to x, which is indeed the final answer as I am looking at the marking scheme on the right hand side. Anyways, find the coordinates of the midpoint of BD. All right. So it's going to be the same thing, right? Minus 3 plus minus 5, add the x coordinates, divide them by 2. Add the y coordinates, which I believe were 1 and 9, and divide them by 2. Right, so minus 3 plus minus 5 would get us minus 8. Divide that by 2. You get minus 4, and here you're going to get 5. 10 divided by 2. Anyways, the diagonal AC of the kite passes through the midpoint of BD. Find an equation of AC. Give your answer in the form y equals mx plus c. All right, so now it says that this is the midpoint that we just calculated, which was negative 4, 5. And it says AC passes through this. So we need to find an equation for AC in the form y equals to mx plus c. All right. So one thing that we know about kites is that these two diagonals are always perpendicular to one another. Right. So we find the gradient of BD because we have both coordinates, and we just invert them. We take the negative reciprocal of it, right? I'll show you how that's done, right? So the coordinates of B were negative 3 and 1, and the coordinates of D were negative 5 and 9, I believe. Let me check. Yeah, that's correct. So we need to find M, right? This is M of BD, okay? You know the formula y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. We're going to use the same formula. Substitute the values in. We're going to get 9 minus 1, minus 5 minus minus 3. And our final answer is going to be negative 4. Now we need to take the negative reciprocal of this. So first, whatever it is, multiply it with a negative sign. We're going to get 4. And since this is 4 over 1, we're just going to reciprocate it. So we are going to get 1 over 4. This is the gradient of AC, right? The rule is basically any two lines that are perpendicular, if you multiply their gradients, you would get negative 1, right? So if you go ahead and check, multiply negative 4 by 1 over 4, you get negative 1, right? So the gradient of MC is equal to 1 over 4, right? So y equals to mx plus c, you can put that in there, right? Now we already have one point that is on the line AC, which was calculated, negative 4 and 5, right? 5 equals to 1 over 4, negative 4 plus c, right? Because AC is this line, and this is the point that we've just calculated, negative 4, 5. It says the diagonal of AC passes through the midpoint BD, which is this. So we input these coordinates into our equation. We've just found the gradient of this, so we just need to input those coordinates and we can find C, right? So 5 equals to minus 1 plus C. You are going to get 6 equals to C. So the final answer is 1 over 4x plus 6 is your final answer. All right, moving to question number 18. Rationalize the denominator and simplify. Now, for rationalize the denominator, what you need to do is basically multiply this, but you need to change this sign, right? So multiply this by this. Same for the numerator, and that's literally it, right? So you get 20 times 4 minus root 6, and you get 4 plus root 6 times 4 minus root 6, right? So let's solve the bottom part first. 4 times 4 would be 16. 4 times root 6 would be negative 4 root 6, right? Root 6 times 4 would be positive 4 root 6. And root 6 times negative root 6 would just equal to negative 6, right? So these two cancel out and these two give us 10. Right, now let's focus on the top. We have 20 times 4, which is 80, and 20 times negative root 6, which is just 20 root 6, right? So our final answer is 80 over 20 root 6 over 10, right? 16 minus 6 is 10, right? Now, what can we do to further simplify this, right? We could take out, we could factorize the numerator, right? By doing 20, right? We could factorize it in 20s. That would give us, uh, I believe it would give, that would give us 4 minus root 6 over 10, right? And this the 10 cancels out with that, leaving us with 2 times 4 minus root 6 as the final answer. All right. You could go ahead and simplify this, and that would just become 8 minus 2 root 6. Okay, both of these answers are acceptable in the marking scheme, giving you a full 3 marks. Moving on to the next question. The diagram shows a box in the shape of a cuboid. Mala has a straight rod of length 10 centimeters. Show that this rod does not fit completely inside the box. Right now, what is the maximum length we can fit in a cuboid? That would be the diagonal from this corner to this corner, right? So it would be like that. So we need to find, we need to show actually that the diagonal this way is not equal to 10, right? It's shorter than 10 centimeters, right? So to do that, first we would need to find this length, right, along the base, right? Let me try to draw that a little more cleaner, right? So we would need this diagonal. To do that, we would need the diagonal along the base, right? Since this is 90 degrees, we need this. You can do the Pythagoras theorem, right? So x, let's just call this bottom x, right, would equal to under root 5 squared plus 5 squared, right? Now 5 squared plus 5 squared is 50, right? So under root 50 would equals to 5 root 2, right? 5 squared 25, 5 squared 25, 25 plus 25 would be 50. Under root 50 is 5 root 2. Okay, so since we have this as 5 root 2, we know that this angle is 90 degrees, right? Now once again we need to use the Pythagoras theorem to find out what this length is. Let's call it y, right? So y squared would equal to x squared, which is 5 root 2 squared plus 7 squared, right? So y squared would equal to 50 plus 7 squared, which is 49, right? So y would equal to under root 50 plus 49, which is 99. And the final answer, if you simplify it, would be 3 root 11, right? Now, if you click the weird button on your calculator, which turns it into decimals, you would get that this is around 9.949, blah 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 blah, right? So this is less than 10, right? That means that a rod of 10 centimeters would not fit in the box, right? Since this is the greatest length. Thus, the rod does not completely fit in the box, right? And to gain actually the last mark, because if you wouldn't state this, you wouldn't get the full marks, you just get 2 marks. So you need to state that since 9.94, whatever the hell that is less than 10, the rod would not fit. The rod wouldn't fit. And that is the answer. Moving on to question number 20, we have functions. Great. So find g2. So just need to put 2 in position of x, and you would get 3 times 2 plus 4. 3 times 2 is 6. 6 plus 4 is 10. And that's your answer. Find gf. No, not that one. The other one. Minus 1. Right? So it's basically saying take the function g and in the parameters of that, you need to put f of negative 1, right? So to do that, we need to first find f of negative 1, right? What is f of negative 1? We need to put that into this, right? So f of negative 1 would equal to 21 2 multiplied by minus 1, right? That would give us negative 7, right? Negative 7 would be our final answer. Just trying to rewrite that to make it look better. And now we need to put this into the parameters of g. So this would give us 3 times negative 7 plus 4. What's 3 times negative 7? That's negative 21. Plus 4 into that, we get negative 17. And that is the final answer for 2 marks. Find f inverse of x. Right now, if you don't know how to do that, basically what you need to do over here is put f of x as y. I'm just copying it from the top there if you guys didn't understand what I'm doing right now. Keep 21 over here. Take 2x minus 1. Now you need to make x the subject, right? So you can do that whatever way you want. That's not really of anybody's concern, right? You could do x, 2x minus 1 would equal to 21 over y, and you could take 1 to that side, giving x equals to 21 over 2y plus 1 over 2. And now what you need to do is change fx into f inverse of x and change y into x, right? So the answer would be 21 over 2x plus 1 over 2. Solve fx equals to gx. Now what you need to do in this weird little question is you need to put this equal to this. So 21 over 2x minus 1 equals to 3x plus 4. Let me check if I wrote that properly. Yep. So you need to find x, right? Whenever it says solve, always assume it's just saying find the value of the unknown variable, right? We're going to start by multiplying this over there. We would get 3x plus 4. God, I think it's a quadratic. 2x minus 1. You get 3x times 2x, which is 6x squared. You would get 3x minus 1x, which is minus 3x, 8x, and minus 4, right? So simplifying this, you would get 5x, and minus 4 minus 21 would give you minus 25, all equals to 0, right? Now, since you guys have a non-calculator paper, I would suggest you try factorizing this, right? And I'm aware that this method is not taught in many uh, places. However, one common and super easy way to do this is multiply this with this, right? What is 6 times negative 25? Right, that gives you minus 150, right? X square, right? Now, since the number is in negative, we need to find two factors that subtract, right? And would give us 5x, but multiply and give us 150x squared, right? This is not as complicated as it seems, right? Once you start it, it would become easier, right? This is the method I personally use for factorization. So find factors of 150, right? So what are some factors we could use? So one obvious one is 15 times 10, right? And you'll immediately realize that 15 minus 10 would give us 5, but 15 times 10 would give us 150, right? So let's substitute this into here, right? 6x squared plus 15x minus 10x. You have to remember to put the x's on, don't forget that. Minus 25 equals to 0. Right now, just factorize this separately and this separately. From this side, you can factor out 3x and you would be left with 2x plus 5. And from this side, you could factor out negative 5 and you will be left with 2x plus 5 also, right? Now, a good way to know that you're doing this correct is that this and this would be the same, right? Now, just factorize 2x plus 5. Take this. write that there, right? And then just combine this term and this term. 3x minus 5 would equal to 0, right? Now solve these separately, because in maths, obviously, for something to multiply and give you 0, either this will have to be 0 or this will have to be 0, right? One of them would have to be equal to 0, right? So set them both equal to 0 and you will get two answers. So x plus 5 equals to 0. So x would equal to negative 5 over 2. Write that down there. Or x would equal to 5 over 3, right? Basically solve this one. So 5 over 3. And that is your final answer. Oh, my bad. Uh, this is actually 2, not 3, right? As you can see over here, that is 2, not 3. And that is 5 marks. Right now, this might have been a little bit complicated for some people, but trust me, it gets easier the more you do it. Right now, on the diagram, sketch the graph of y equals to cosine x for 0 to 360. Right now, you have to memorize these graphs. Cosine always starts at 1. So let me try to make this graph a bit understandable. You're gonna have to memorize this graph, right? So for cosine, for cos x, right? At 0, it will always start up at 1. At 90, it will go down to 0. At 180, it will go to negative 1. At 270, it will be here. And at 360, it will go back to positive 1. Now, solve the equation 2x plus root 3 equals to 0. Right? Now, what you need to do is basically keep cos x on one side and try to rearrange it, right? So you would get minus root 3 over 2, right? Now, minus root 3 over 2, uh, now minus root 3 over 2 just equals to around negative 0.87, right? You're gonna have to memorize some of these, right? Exact trigonometric values, but it equals to around negative 0.87, right? So what we gotta do over here is go down to negative 0.87, which is right there, and make a straight line, right? That is not straight. God, like that, right? Now we need to check the points where this line intersects our curve and draw a straight line up to the x-axis. And we need to estimate what this would be, right? This I believe would be around 100, and this I'm assuming 220, right? It's basically pray and spray, right? There's no exact way to find out the value, right? So 220, right? So if you check the marking scheme, that's what it says. It says 150 and 210. Okay, so this basically just has to be like around this, around, the actual value. It's 150 and 210, right? Obviously, because of the fact that I'm doing on a screen, it's not super accurate, but you see, this one was. So there's a range that they specify. I can't exactly find that over here, but no, yes, that it's plus minus 30, right? I mean, of course, this one is completely off, but that's because we're doing it uh, on Chrome. Amazing. Question number 22. A graph with equation this has a minimum point of this. Find the value of B and C. All right. So what we need to do over here is completing the square, right? So we need to do this, right? X square plus bx plus b over 2 plus c minus b over 2. This will have to be squared, right? Uh, this will give us the final answer, right? This is basically the method we use for completing the square. If you guys don't know how to complete the square, check out my other video in which I have explained this in a lot of detail, right? So this will just give us x plus b over 2, right? Because if we factorize this, right, it's in the form of a plus 2ab plus b squared. Forgot to put the square, right? This is in that form, right? So we have x plus b over 2 plus c minus negative b plus c minus b over 2 whole squared, right? We could simplify this further and get squared over 4. Amazing, right? Now it's telling us that this has a minimum point of negative 5 and 12, right? What that means is that negative b over 2, right? For completing the square, you always take the number inside the bracket and switch the sign. So negative b over 2 would equal to 5, negative 5, and 12 would equal to, and this number outside would equal to 12, right? So c minus b square over 4 would equal to 12, right? So first, obviously, we need to find b. uh, b would equal to negative 10, 10, exactly 10, right? Because negative b would equal to negative 10, so positive b would equal to 10, right? Now put that value in here. C would equal to 10, c minus 10 square over 4 would equal to 12, right? So c minus 100 over 4, which is 25, uh, equals to 12. So c equals to 12 plus 25. 12 plus 25 is 37. And that is your answer, 10 and 37 for 3 marks, right? Last two questions, I believe, right? Yup. All right. All right. Question number 23. So the diagram shows a mirror sector AOB of a circle. The sector angle is 240 degrees and the radius is 12 centimeters. Show that the length of the major arc AB is 16 pi. I have already marked it out, right? So the formula for arc length is basically theta over 360 times 2 pi r, right? So what is theta? Theta is 240. We have 360 down here times 2 pi r. What is r? R is 12 centimeters, right? So now we just need to go ahead and simplify this. 240 over 360 times 2 times 12. Remember, we need to keep the answer in terms of pi. So we got the answer as 16 pi, which is equal to that. Anyways, OA is joined to OB to form a cone, right? Where is OA? Wow. Okay. Okay. So this is joined to this, right? OA is joined to OB to form a cone. Work out the volume of the cone. Give your answer in the form A root B into pi. Okay. So that's a form you need to give our answer into. Okay. So this is the formula for the volume of a cone, right? Now it's asking us to find the volume, and this question is a little bit tricky, right? So what we need to do over here first is find R and H, right? What is R and H? As I drew over here. Okay. So let me draw a cone over here to explain to you guys, right? Right. Now R would be the radius of the bottom. H would be the height, and yep, that's it. H would be the height and R would be the radius. Now to find the radius, obviously we can't go ahead and find this radius because this is not the radius we're looking for, right? We're looking for the radius of the bottom when it's closed, right? Like when this point meets that point, right? But we need we already have the circumference, right? AB is the circumference, which we know is 16 pi, right? So we can use that to find the radius, right? Since we know that circumference equals to 2 pi r, right? Circumference in our case is 16 pi. We can find out r. Cancel out the pi. 16 over 2 is 8. 8 equals to the radius, right? So 8 centimeters is our radius. Now we need to find the height, right? Now we already have the slant height, right? Which is basically this, right? It's 12 centimeters. Now we have found that the radius is 8 centimeters, right? Since this is 90 degrees, we can use Pythagoras theorem to solve it. So let's write it down here. 12 squared equals to height squared plus 8 squared, right? So first thing we need to do is take h to the other side. or take 8 to the other side. So 12 squared minus 8 squared equals to h squared. So 12 squared minus 8 squared, you need to do this by the way on your own, but it's equal to 80. So now we just need to take the square root, and the square root of 80, I believe, is 80. You can simplify this to 4 root 5, right? And that is your answer for h. Now you can use this to calculate, you can put this into the original formula, volume equals to 1 over 3 pi 8 squared for 5. Right now we are of course going to give our answer in terms of pi. So the first thing we need to do over here of course is 8 squared, right? 8 square is 64, right? So we will have 64. So we are going to have 1 over 3 times 64 times 4 root 5 pi, right? 64 times 4 would be 256. So 256 over 3 root 5 pi. That is the answer. But I believe we could simplify it. Let me check the mark. Okay, in the marking scheme it says that this is the exact answer. So this is the correct answer according to the marking scheme. No need to simplify any further. 5 over 3 pi. All right. Now the last question. Find the value of n. Right now, but what we need to do over here is of course turn this 9 into 27, right? We need to make the bases equal, or the other way around, right? So first thing, simplify 27 and x, right? When we have, again, if you guys don't understand indices, check out my video on indices. It's super helpful and explanatory. But moving on, when you have a bracket like this where an indices put the power of another, you just multiply them. So you would get 2x in this case, right? All right, now if you guys notice one thing, 27 is just equal to 3 to the power of 3, right? So we can put that in place of that, right? So 3 to the power of 3 and x equals to, now same, 3 squared is equal to 9, right? So we can turn this into 3. 2 times 2 is going to be 4, so 4x is 9, right? So okay, so now that the bases are same, we know that the indices or the powers are equal to one another, right? So 3 and x is equal to 4x, right? Now we can divide both sides by x and cancel them out, leaving us with n equals to 4 over 3, which is the final answer for 2 marks. That is the entire paper, full marks. If you guys didn't understand anything, please leave a comment in the comment section below so I can get back to you with the answers you guys need and the help you guys need for your exams. If there are any other topics you guys would like me to cover, please mention that in the comment section below so I can get to those videos as soon as possible. Alright, keep practicing until the next one.